Punisher Warzone is without question one of the worst comic book films that's ever been released. This movie is bland, it's uninspiring, doesn't know much about the source material, and not only that, there's some horrible ass acting in this movie. If you've never seen this comic book film, stay away because it's clearly not worth your time. Well, I do have to say, while this film is certainly one of the worst comic book films I've seen, at least they tried something, but it's to horrible results. This is not a sequel to the 2004 Punisher film. It's a straight up reboot. It stars Ray Stevenson, who plays Frank Castle, and I have to say, he is terrible in this film. It's like he tries to be too menacing here. Oh, and by the way, this film is rated R, so there's lots of violence in here, straight up curse words. It's a Punisher film that doesn't really live up to its potential. The guy who played Jigsaw Dominic West was laughable. There's a lot of scenes in this film just straight up ridiculous. And the lines, especially towards certain parts of this film, is just straight up atrocious. I literally was bored. I was underwhelmed. I felt like I turned the film off. This is some shitty writing if I ever seen it. At least the action is on point. I like the action in this film, despite how violent, this movie is. It fits the tone of the film pretty well, but everything else is just horrible. It's like they ain't learned their lesson from the 2004 Punisher film. They ain't improve upon it. They just straight up did a reboot because Tommy James didn't come back due to contract negotiations breaking through. But despite all that, this film, as horrible as it is, as much as a dumpster fire this film really is though, they at least stay true to the violence of the character, but to me it's not enough to make a interesting film at all. The people who made this film, did they even read a comic book to understand the Punisher character? Frank Castle is a complex and hard to understand character from the comic books because he's more about violence. It's about what he believes is doing the right thing. That's killing all of the bad guys out there. He does it not for the sake of the family that he lost, but he does it as a justice in his own right mind. And to portray that in a film really ain't that hard, but that's what this film doesn't get. Punisher is not all about violence. It's something more, and I really wasn't feeling this film. There are laughable lines in this movie. One of the fight scenes later in the film, he actually bites the Punisher like he's a freaking vampire. And I kid you not, the shit is ridiculous. But at least they got the violent part right on some level. But everything else is just, it's mediocre, it's boring. I don't really care about this film because barely no character development. Seriously, making a good Punisher film is not that hard, but this film fails at all aspects of this movie. I'm giving this film a 5 out of 10. Straight up a dumpster fire comic book film if I ever seen one. This film had potential to be interesting, but it's just very underwhelming. I didn't care a lot about this film. They ain't do their best job. They should have just made a sequel to the 2004 Punisher film. That way we could follow that version of the Punisher instead of following this one. I mean, it opens up with a violent montage of the Punisher kicking ass, but you don't understand the whole scope of what he was doing beforehand. Well, that's the true thing about doing reboots. If you want to reboot a character like the Punisher, then it damn well better be good, and this film is not that. And that's my review of Punisher Warzone. Okay, leave your comments down below in the section and let me know what you think about this film. Do you agree it's the worst Punisher movie? Or do you like it on some personal level? As much a failure of this film is, it eventually led the way to the Marvel's TV show, The Punisher, which came out about 3 years ago. And it is a far better representation of the character. And that is my next review. Alright, this is Slim Guy 172 saying, peace out.